How's it going? In this video, I'm going to share with you a single concept that if you apply, you could get 5x or more results or 500% better results in 2023 as you did in 2022. I'm going to share my screen and take you through a few PowerPoint slides. I'm also going to show you a profound concept from Nassim Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile. If you understand just this one idea and if you apply it, you will weed out so much of what's holding you back as a person. By the way, I'm Dr. Benjamin Hardy, author of the new book coming out called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Also, in this video, I'm going to show you a way to review your 2022 in such a way that as you review it, you'll be able to see how you can easily get 5x the results in 2023 as you did in 2022. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So let's just look at your 2022. And I challenge you, please watch this until the last slide. I only have about 4 or 5 slides, but the last slide where I go into the stuff from Nassim Taleb on Anti-Fragile, you've got to watch this. You've got to understand this concept. So I want you to look at your 2022 as we're coming to the end of 2022 and jumping into 2023. And you could just look at this as, you got months, you got quarters, these are weeks. And this is what the typical person's year looks like. There's a lot of white days, which equal kind of just flatline. You're not actually making progress. You're busy. You're doing a lot, but you're not actually making true advanced progress. The reds are the days that took you backwards. These could be the days where you just were fully, sometimes the days or the weeks where you're just not on your A game. We all do it. We all make big mistakes, or we all just are off sometimes. The greens are the days where you genuinely went forward. These are the days when you made massive progress towards your future self, the person you want to be. This is where you're focused on the important, but not the urgent. These are the days where you actually got up and you stuck with your commitments. Another aspect of green days, though, is this could be things where you know of aspects of your past self that you don't want anymore. This could be letting go of a bad habit, removing the apps from your phone that are distracting you. It could be getting rid of a bad friend who's just, toxic. But the green days are the days you let go of the past and advanced consciously and intentionally toward the future. Now, this is what a typical year would look like on a plot where you started here, and this is where you ended up in terms of progress and growth towards your goals or in your business or whatnot. But of course, it's not a linear line. The flats are flat, the greens are up, but the reds are down. And so this is where I'm going to share with you the single concept in this video, that if you get it, 5x growth becomes automatic. And then I'm going to show you the Nassim Taleb concept. So here's what happens if you just remove the reds. You keep all the whites, which are flat, and you keep all the greens. You're right here. What happens is you get about 5x the growth. And so the concept I'm talking about here is raising your floor. The reds are your floor. The reds are either knowingly or unknowingly the things that keep pulling you back. This is you taking one step forward, one step back, sometimes one step forward, 2 steps back. I'm not telling you that you should be mad about your reds or quote unquote, you shouldn't be mad about the areas where you went backwards. I have made massive mistakes in 2022 that cost me lots of time, energy, effort, money, and none of those are wasted if I learn from all of them. One of the things that Carol Dweck talks about in the book Mindset is how often did you fail? And failures are embraced if you have a growth mindset. You're not afraid of failures. So at the end of every day, for example, with my kids, we ask, where did you fail today? And what did you learn from that? So these are your quote unquote failures, and they're only failures if you don't learn from them. If you learn from them, you're going to ultimately turn them into massive gains in the future because you just accumulated wisdom. So there's no reason to be upset about these, but here's just the idea. If you raised your floor, you get 5x the growth. Now, when I say floor, I'm talking about all things. We all have a floor and we have a ceiling. The ceiling is the best aspects. Call it, you have a ceiling on your friend group. The friends you have, there are some of the people in your circle are just the best aspect of your network. But also you've got a floor in terms of the people that you surround yourself with that in a lot of ways represent your past, but not your future. I love the quote from Zig Ziglar. He said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so you could ask yourself, what is the ceiling of your network in terms of the people you spend time with? And also, what's the floor of your network in terms of the people you spend time with that are ultimately pulling you backwards? But you could also look at the floor and the ceiling in terms of your daily behavior, your daily actions. So for example, you wake up and let's just say you start immediately scrolling social media, right? Like that's going to be your floor. That's going to represent low quality behavior. And then throughout the day, you're going to have powerful behavior, hopefully, where you're hyper-focused, you're in a flow state, you're focused on your future self, and you're making progress. So the idea is, if you just kept the flats, and if you raised the floor, meaning you eliminated the downside, and you eliminated the downs, just by doing that, you'd get 5x. And so raising the floor is actually how you radically transform your ceiling. And from a subconscious and a psychological level, there's a concept of integrity. Integrity is the level of trust and confidence you have in yourself. And the only way to build confidence is by creating integrity. And when you create integrity, that means that you raise the floor. And you have a floor, by the way, on your daily, on everything in your life. In your diet has a floor where it's just like sometimes you might just binge out on junk food. So if you just elevated that and just created more neutrals and ups, and if you raised the floor, then you would have higher integrity. You'd have less cognitive dissonance. You'd feel more in alignment. And when you raise your integrity level, you also raise your what would be called your subconscious deserve level. This is something that Gary Cady talks about. It's also something that David Hawkins talks about. David Hawkins said that your unconscious will only allow you to have what you believe you deserve. And so when you raise your floor, meaning you wake up and you do what you want to do in a quality way, you're making progress towards your future self, and you eliminate the floor, you just have just neutral or positive behaviors. Like attracts like. You'll have more positive behaviors. And so if you raise your integrity level, your ceiling will go sky high. That's actually one of the fastest ways to raise your ceiling is to raise your floor, because this is what happens. Just by raising your floor, your ceiling is going to go by 5x. Your vision of your future self is going to go up. Your confidence is going to go up. So now this takes me to the Nassim Taleb concept from Anti-Fragile. He has what he calls the barbell strategy. And this is something he suggests for investing, but it's also a model he uses for having a floor and a ceiling. So when it comes to investing, he talks about how you should never invest on things in the middle, the boring middle. Avoid this. He says 90% of your energy and of your resources in terms of investing, 90% of your assets should go into radically conservative stuff that will almost have no downside. It's so conservative that you're not going to lose, because building net worth is really about the compound, right, of long-term consistent. But he said, if you have a really high floor, meaning if you're someone who's solely invested in extreme risk, then you have a really low floor, meaning you're going to lose a ton. 90% of his floor is highly protected. He doesn't go down very much. And so there's not a low floor. His floor is really strong. And so by having 90% invested with very little downside, he can take 10% and go for extreme risk, extreme upside. And this is where he can, this is how he invests in big things, where he can go for really big outsized wins. Well, he applied this same concept to floor and ceiling, where he talked about his health. And he said, if you have one side really, really strong, like if your floor is really stable and high in terms of, call it your diet. So he said, for example, on this side of the barbell, he's got certain things where it's absolute no-goes. Like he has no sugar, no alcohol, etc. Like his sleep is amazing. So like hyper conservative and really high floor, right, of 90% of his actions and behaviors. And so this is where he's super conservative. And then over here, because this foundation is so solid and because the floor is solid, his body can afford bigger risks. His body can afford certain things, whether it's like, he's got to like really redline it for a little bit for a big project or something like that. I just love this concept of having a really high floor and having a really firm foundation. And if you do that, then you have the foundation from which you can make big leaps, the foundation from which you can take big risks. You can take big risks because the majority of you is so sound. That is a concept I invite you to consider in 2023 is how could you raise your floor? As an example, on a daily basis, what is the floor of your average behavior, right? Like chances are there's areas where you're focused and chances are there's areas where you're radically distracted. If you're radically distracted scrolling social media, it's a really low floor. So if you just eliminated that, right? You just rose your floor up, you rose your integrity up, you rose your deserve level up. So then boom, you've got more internal integrity and more confidence, which is going to shoot your vision towards your future self up. And winning attracts winning. So when you replace losing by plugging the holes in the ship and building a sounder foundation, a sounder, stronger, firmer foundation where your floor is solid, and your floor, by the way, and your standards are the same thing, and your standards and your identity is the same thing. So by raising your floor, raising your standards, and by normalizing that, and by eliminating so much of the downsides, whether that's in your finances, whether that's in your health, whether that's in your behavior, whether that's in the people you're around, you don't really realize how exponential things go when you raise the floor. It's like the graph I showed you. It goes up by 5x. Let me give an example. If I replaced 1 hour of mindless scrolling on my phone, 1 hour, which is a low floor, 1 hour of mindless scrolling. That's not net neutral. That's net negative, because most of the media I'm consuming when I'm randomly scrolling social media is not going to be future self stuff. It's not going to be stuff that's moving me towards my future self. It's low energy, low vibration, low level stuff. So not only is that stuff taking me down mentally, emotionally, physically, but if I replace that 1 hour with something really high level, call it, if I replace grade level 2 out of 10, just mindless consumption, with levels 8 or 9 or 10 level information quality, if I just replace it with listening to a really good audiobook, I actually can't predict. And if I did that on a daily basis for 300 and call it 65 days a year, what is the change in that 1 hour? It will fundamentally change my entire life. Let's just say I replace that 1 hour of waste with 1 hour a day of really focused, high quality, high caliber stuff. First off, that's 365 hours, which is, I don't even know how many days. It's somewhere around, what, 15 days? But that's 15 days of focused information. 15 days, that's like something like 20 books. So we're talking about, you replace something sucking you down with 20 books pulling you up. Who knows the insights, the ideas, the transformation in your ideas, the transformation in your identity. It's very easy to see that if you raised your floor, you could get 5x the results. And that's my invitation to you, is identify your floor on a daily basis in your behaviors, in your actions, in your mindset, and just start to raise that floor. By just simply raising the floor, you're going to raise your integrity. You're going to raise your subconscious. Also, and this is important, and this is related to subconscious, is the reason the floor exists is because it's emotional, it's subconscious. You're avoiding the things that you want, and you're essentially distracting yourself. You're avoiding what's true. I love the quote, all progress starts by telling the truth. And so that's why you would address the floor. You would look at the floor, you'd be honest about the floor, and then you would raise it. And by doing that, boom. I'm Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, check out this book sometime. 10x is easier than 2x. Comes out in May, but down below, you can get more information on how you can get additional resources. Talk to you soon.